Davidic sonship. Okay? Now you're going to see how this applies to Christ. The royal Davidic Son of God. Son of God. Okay. Now let me break that down. There are different ways in which you can be a son of God. You're a son of God by creation. When God creates you and gives you life, he is acting as a father who gives life to his offspring and provides for them. So in that sense, all of us are sons and daughters of God. Exactly what Paul says in Acts 17, 23 to 29. Specifically, Acts 17, 28, 29, talking to the Greek pagans, he says, all of us are the offspring of God because God created us and gives us life and preserves us. So in one sense, every created sentient being is a son of God. Angels, humans, sons of God, because God is our life giver who gives us life and provides for us. Now, there's another sense in being a son of God. Covenantally. Exodus 4, 22 to 23. Deuteronomy 14, verse 1. Write these down. Exodus 4, 22 to 23. Deuteronomy 14, verse 1. Write these down. Deuteronomy 32, 6 to 9. Deuteronomy 32, 6 to 9. Deuteronomy 32, 15 to 20 tells us Israel is God's firstborn son. Among all the nations, God chose Israel to be his people on earth, to be his sons and daughters on earth, reflecting God's character to the people. So there is another sense in which you're a son of God, covenantally, that when God makes you his people on earth, makes you his community, that's when he spiritually births you, begets you to be his sons and daughters, reflecting his character. During the Old Testament, you could only be a covenantal son of God if you belong to Israel and was circumcised if you're a male. So if I wanted to be a covenantal son of God, I would have to cling to Israel. And if I was a man, get circumcised and obey the covenant, I too then could be a son of God, even though I was a Gentile. That's in the Old Testament. That's in Leviticus 19, 33 to 34. Leviticus 19, 33 to 34. Deuteronomy 10, 18 to 19. An alien, a Gentile who wanted to worship the God of Israel, could then live in the land, and if he's a male, get circumcised, and he'd be treated as an Israelite with the same full rights as an ethnic Israelite, and therefore be a son of God. Now, in the New Testament, you can now be part of God's covenant community called the church. In the Old Testament, it was the nation of Israel, and Gentiles could then belong to that nation and become a son of God covenantally. New Testament, it's the church of Jesus Christ. When you're baptized in Christ, you are now part of God's new covenant community. You are spiritual Israel and become a son and daughter of God. So you understand the other sense in which you're a son of God. Covenantally, by becoming partakers of God's covenant and being part of God's covenant community, which now in Christ is the church. Then there's the royal Davidic sons of God. Royal Davidic son of God. Well, how do you become a royal Davidic son of God? Number one, you have to be a physical descendant of David. Number two, you have to be the one appointed to rule on David's throne. Number three, you become that son when you begin ruling. Okay, now, there's one other category of sonship that's unique and unparalleled, and there is no other son of that kind. The eternally begotten Son of God. There's now one category of sonship that is unique, unlike any other type of sonship, and there are no other sons of that kind. And this unique category belongs to Christ alone. He alone is the eternally begotten Son, not created. He is the Son who's been there with the Father in eternity, one with the Father and Spirit, and with the Father and Spirit creates all things, sustains all things. He is the only Son of that kind. Do you now see the different categories of sonship? So there's a category of sonship, eternal begotten son, unique to one person, and there is no other son of that kind, Jesus Christ. He is the only son of his kind. There are no other sons like that. So now we have a unique category of sonship, eternally begotten son. That is Jesus alone. Then you have sons and daughters by creation. Anyone created by God becomes a son or daughter of God in the sense that God gives you life and preserves you. Well, in that definition, God the Father is our Father, the Son is our Father, and the Spirit is our Father in that definition. What do I mean? If creating us, sustaining us, makes us children of God, well, the Father with the Son and the Spirit creates everything and gives life to everything. So in that sense, the Father is our Father, the Son is our Father, and the Spirit is our Father in that sense. But they're not God the Father.